And here's Donald Trump's recent refusal to rule out using military force to get Greenland. What is your vision? What is your reaction to such a statement? And how will you behave if Mr. Trump does so? How will you act? As I understand it, there are already some specific initiatives that will be involved. Immediately after the inauguration of Donald Trump, initiatives, at least what I have seen, about the beginning of negotiations of buildings on the purchase of Greenland. At the same time, we hear the statement of the Prime Minister of Greenland, which Greenland has a special relationship with Copenhagen. The Prime Minister of Greenland declares that they do not want to be either Danes or Americans, they want to be Greenlanders. And I think we need to listen to the Greenlanders first. Just as we, being neighbors with other islands, peninsulas and lands, listen to the residents of Crimea, residents of Donbass, and residents of Navoritsya to find out their attitude to the regime that came to power through an illegal coup, and which was not perceived by the residents of Crimea, Navoritsya, and Donbass.
Который пришел к власти через незаконный госпереворот и который не был воспринят жителями Крыма, Новороссии и Донбасса.
This is in full accordance with what I said at the beginning. The right of a nation to self-determination. In cases when a nation, being part of a larger state, believes that it is uncomfortable in this state, and that it wants to self-determine in accordance with the UN Charter, a large state is obliged not to oppose or hinder this. Not the way the Spaniards did with Catalonia, not the way they do with Scotland. If a nation, as part of another state, expresses such an aspiration, such an intention to exercise its right, and international law, I want to say again, as it is fixed in the UN Charter and in the Declaration of the General Assembly, means, or rather, everyone should respect the territorial integrity of a state, whose governments represent the entire population living on the relevant territory. If Greenland believes that Copenhagen does not represent its interests from its population, then, probably, the right to self-determination comes into effect. Just like the right to self-determination was the international legal basis of the decolonization process in the 60s and 70s, when African peoples, indigenous African peoples realized that the colonizers who rule them do not represent their interests, do not represent the interests of this population. When the nation's right to self-determination, enshrined in the UN Charter, was first implemented on a large scale, in full compliance with the Charter, as I have already said, but not to the end. Today, 17 non-self-governing territories remain in the world. There is a special committee, the so-called Committee on Decolonization. The General Assembly, which meets annually confirms the need to complete the process of decolonization. Including numerous resolutions have been adopted on the issue of the island of Mayotte, which the French do not want to give, contrary to UN decisions, to the state of the Comoros. There are also issues of decolonization of Mauritius and many others. I said only 17 territories that are not self-governing. Nevertheless, the right of a nation to self-determination exists. It is implemented within the framework of decolonization. It is an international law. The basis for completing this process, bearing in mind the 17 non-self-governing territories, and, of course, the right of a nation to self-determination, is at the heart of the decisions made by the residents of Crimea in the 2014 year, and the residents of Navoritsya and Donbass in the 2022 year.